There's a big fat one, a skinny one, and a medium-sized one. I love Formula Drift.
No stranger to drifting, no stranger to competition.
That guy stole my freaking ratchet wrench. I see that. That's mine. He rejects your reality and inserted his own. This is a stimulator, right?
Pilot.
The pole petition.
Matt Shulman still on top of the 69.
Gotcha! Grip this.
All right, folks. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Captain Ben. Tim Murphy over here.
Hello, and we have there's Paul. He's joining us from his Zoom call. Right there. That's Paul joining us from Zoom. Paul, can you hear me? I don't think he can hear us. Okay.
He probably didn't enable his microphone. That's the problem.
Probably why. Yeah. So anyhow,
that's what we're working with. Oh no, you're gonna drop Paul. What's the matter?
My bad. I'm sorry, Paul. Okay. So Ben, how the hell are you?
I'm pretty good. I did the K1 Drift Night not too long ago.
And that is the one in Miami or the one in Broward, Fort Lauderdale?
So every so often, K1, I think it's like every 3 months. I could be wrong. You just basically gotta go on the website, the K1 Speed website, and they have the dates outline of where pretty much the majority of their locations, they host a Drift Night event. Where basically they put like this slide on, like this PVC
plastic,
type
on the wheels.
Plastic on the wheels, and then you gotta get sideways with the carts.
The front and the rear, or just the rear?
Just the rear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit getting used to it. You kind of gotta get familiar with the limitations. Biggest one of all is the lack of a steering angle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can't really get away with. I mean, if they could come up with some sort of like a WiseFab kit or an SLR kit for that'd be incredible.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you: is it the lack of angle because of the because this doesn't have like a regular steering rack, right? So, are they bottoming? Are the wheels almost touching the chassis, or is it just because they're not? There's stoppers or something on the spindles. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I usually don't care to pay attention to those things. You're asking the wrong person, but I will say that if I recall correctly, it does seem like the wheels kind of touch the chassis.
Oh, okay.
Where you can't really go any much further.
Right.
So you kind of have to re-engineer the setup, the steering setup, like how everything is all connected, just to be able to accomplish like a higher degree of angle. But
maybe if you just space the wheels out further, and if there wasn't stoppers, then you can. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
If there wasn't any stoppers, then that would give you a little more angle. And if there was stoppers, you could probably trim those stoppers. Oh, sorry, you could trim those stoppers.
Maybe. Again, I'm not. When it comes down to those things, I'm not really paying attention to that.
I guess I'll have to.
Yeah,
I have to come by.
Yeah. But what I like to do is just kind of like just focus on the driving. Just focus.
That's good.
And once I'm there, then it's just. But at the same time, I kind of feel bad for a lot of the other people. So they have a thing too, is that they know how much of a struggle it is, the staff. So they will intentionally not give you full power.
Oh, for the people that...
And it's because the majority of the people just can't kind of figure it out on what you need to do to kind of get the cart sideways successfully without going into every turn spinning out.
Okay.
And the thing is that it's sort of working against you because you do need the power to kind of help you get through some of the turns.
Right, because otherwise you just come out of the drift. You like drift a little bit and come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, it's like you have this like mental thing where you want to give it more just to be able to do more.
Right.
But because they're not giving you more, then you kind of go to the extent of doing these extra elaborate movements just to try to get it to do more. And in the end, you kind of cause yourself to kind of mess up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Next time you go, if I don't make it, take a picture of the steering in the front. Like just like take it like from the top down, just kind of take a picture with the front wheels and all the way across the front.
And what were you thinking of?
Just to see. I just want to see what it looks
you
like.
want to like draw it out like Paul. You know what you could do? You could just draw out Paul working on the diagram of the front, and then you could submit it to them, to K1.
That's a good idea.
And then maybe they might consider Paul their chief engineer.
He looks like an engineer.
Yeah, he does. He looks like what an engineer would do.
Yeah. Like kind of just like hold your head and be like, what's going on?
But yeah, there's been that going on. And I think, and also another thing, just wanting to highlight and mention based on some of the, I guess, other events that I've been catching up on is that for many of you folks that may not know, we do offer live streams. I think it's something that maybe it's not really well known, but we offer a comprehensive set of packages from the carry-on to the check-in to the full-blown
Road trip.
over the top road trip. That's like the biggest package of them all that we have to offer. So if anybody interested in allowing drift sessions to elevate or to fulfill your live stream ambitions, talk to us.
There you go.
Yeah, I just
wait, let me correct that. Live streaming drift events,
yes,
not other things.
yes.
Some people have some imagination out there, so you got to be careful.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah,
Not weddings, not parties. Maybe, other motorsports or events, if it's a car show or something like that, maybe.
Can you do? Have you thought about considering doing play-by-play of a wedding?
That would be fun.
Think about it.
You'd really,
Think about it.
yeah. I don't know if you'd want to do that.
Something if the individual or if the couple were maybe like huge sports fans,
Yeah, I could see that.
they would probably enjoy somebody doing a play-by-play commentary on their wedding and how it's going out.
So, Geico did a commercial. Have you seen the new Geico commercial?
Which one?
The one with the neighbors that are like play-by-play announcers?
No, I haven't.
So that you brought that up kind of makes me think of that, because it's like this couple's talking about, they moved in or whatever, and every time they make a comment, the neighbors are standing with the fence, on the other side of the fence with their suits on and their microphones.
Yeah.
And every time they do something, they're commenting on what they're doing. So kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be an interesting industry to tap into. I mean, because you already have them just spending thousands and thousands of dollars on just the whole extravagance of it all.
Yeah, a lot of money.
It's a lot of money into it. But
So why not have play-by-play live stream for the family and friends that couldn't make it?
yeah, exactly. Because you have
Do live interviews.
yes, live interviews would work. And then what else could work?
Maybe we're missing our calling, Ben. We should be marketing towards live streaming weddings and doing commentary and live interviews.
Yeah, I could see that. See, ask the bride and the groom is like, so how'd it go?
Yeah, so we're here with the bride now, and do you regret your decision? Because we all know we can't dance now. I don't know. But anyways, back on topic. So you're at K1 and you're drifting. Do you guys... Is it like a competition, or are you guys just having fun?
No, it's all fun. We're just it's sort of one of those things where we're at a point, like me and the group that I'm with, is that we're trying to sort of figure out how to basically tandem with one another. cleanly, I guess you can say, reliably or consistently.
Right, and get close and try out like actual tandems.
Yeah, and the struggle is sort of taking everything into account. The limitations are some of the limitations already outlined with the carts, and then applying that into a tandem scenario, because at least you can get away. Like if you mess up, like one of the ways you get mess up and kind of recover from it in one of those carts is that you just sort of like let it coast. So you don't apply any brake, you don't apply any gas, you just sort of let it coast and kind of like find its way back from spinning out.
Right.
Because you're basically right at the limit.
Right.
If you put yourself in this situation, and then you sort of like, you have no choice because you could just mess up. I mean, spin out, but that's one way. But then taking into account like, well, what line are we going to take? Because sometimes what I'll do is just I'll go like really wide and trying to hit like some of the outer zones when it's unnecessary. But then I guess it's sort of trying to put yourself in a situation where like you're predictable too for the other person. And at the same time too, then one of the biggest problems is the carts itself, because they'll be different. So it's not the same cart every time you go into it. So when you go into a cart or you do a session, it's 6 minutes. And they assign you a random cart. And every time it'll be different. So sometimes the carts will be great, phenomenal. Like everything will just be dialed in. Like you'll feel like the steering is good, brakes, gas, all of that power. But then there's some carts, like one of the carts, for instance, that it was just shaking violently. Like it's
poor maintenance.
Yeah, amongst many things. But it just shook so violently that you're like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. There was another cart that had no brakes whatsoever.
I mean, do they check these things before they put people in them?
No. Okay. They don't necessarily do like a thorough inspection.
Well, you don't have to do
breakdown.
a thorough. Do the brakes work? Like they pull them up, don't they?
They do, but it's not like they pull them forward at speed. They'll either just like push the cart like physically, or just they usually just.
So they need some better employees. It sounds like.
I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to speak ill of them because we get some perks from going over to these places. Like for instance, I don't want to highlight some of the perks, but we get perks. And I don't want to lose privileges. Because it's
your drift privilege.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't, but it's a lot of fun. It does get a little crazy, a little hairy at times, but it's good.
It does sound like fun. I mean, every time you talk about it, I wish I made it. One of these days I will.
Yeah.
So how many guys go?
It's originally it was going to be 5 and ended up being 4. Luckily it was 4 because they said that it's 4 people per session. Because they put a limit.
Right.
Because again, safety concerns. They don't, since you're going to be spinning out, doing all that. So they want to be careful. Obviously, I get it. Yeah. I mean, because when you're sitting on the side waiting for your turn, you realize, like, I can see why they cut down the power.
Yeah. I talked to Juan Hay now today.
Oh, okay.
His AC was having problems. So, but I think it worked its way out.
Nice. What's up with you with the car?
So the car is doing pretty well. I had to, I had like a, I guess it's called a swirl pot, or anyways, like, I'm not running a water pump, right? So I'm not running a mechanical water pump. I'm running an electric water pump with the radiator in the trunk. So I had to do the water pump delete with an AN fitting in the front and for the inlet, and then come with water coming out of the motor. I had a couple different choices. A lot of them were expensive, like just for the outlet piece that's from Rad Dan to convert. So when the water comes out, convert to an AN fitting, it was like $350.
Whoa there.
Yeah, I thought that was a little extreme. So I had some water necks. So I basically cut the water neck to a point where I had a flange, and then I got some tubing, and then I got a I can't think of the name, but it basically like has a radiator cap. It's a little I can't even think of it, but it's so like the radiator fluid. So it has a radiator cap on it. It's like a little basically we made a swirl pot out of it. I don't know. I can't think of the term right now.
Okay.
But so I took it, mocked it all up, and I had Chris weld a flange to it, so I could basically have a way to bleed the engine and make my end connection. So he did a good job welding it, except for on the part where the flange goes to the motor, he welded it from the inside, and then he kind of like poured it. It had to grind it out a little bit or whatever to make sure it was, it was getting the same volume. And when he did that, I think he did a little too much, so it was leaking on the seam.
Oh, great.
So I had to fix that. So I fixed that this week, and I was able to redo the dash and get everything in there, redo some of the wiring, put the dash back on so that way I can access. So basically doing a lot of little stuff. I got the jack because I have like an electric jack. It's kind of like the budget setup for automatic jack system. It's basically a upside down electric scissor jack that's mounted to the back of the car. So I just put a block underneath, and I got that working today. Really, now that I got the water thing fixed, that was the main thing. So I got another tune. I kind of tweaked the tune. So I'm going to drop the tune in probably tomorrow or Sunday, start it up, see how it runs. If it idles better than it did before, I'm going to put the car on the ground. And then I got a couple things for sale. Hopefully I could sell them. And then I can get, I can order my rear window and my side windows and stuff. And then take it over, take it around the block, start checking out. So hopefully soon it'll be at this first event.
Talking about windows and your car, I did notice from the last time we spoke, people were pretty receptive to the mini split and cassette idea.
Yeah, that was interesting. We were talking about that, like how we do a lot of shorts and you don't realize, or it doesn't make sense why one does better than the other. But yeah, putting a mini split in apparently is a popular idea. But Nick from Spark Speed Shop, he said that his car is available for testing, but I'm obviously going to test it on my car first. I have a couple ideas. I've been mulling over this idea and figuring out a way that you can make a budget-friendly, removable AC system.
Oh.
That you can just power with 12 volts. Basically, it wouldn't necessarily cool the whole car, but something that maybe, I don't know. I'm working on some ideas.
Okay.
So I'm going to come up with like a Bobo idea, try it out on the car, see how it works. And if it works good, you never know. Maybe that's a removable race car air conditioning that you could just mount to the driver's seat or something. And then that way, if when you're doing practice days, you just basically mount it to the back of the seat and it cools you down. And then, if you can't run it or whatever, you just take it out. So
most sounds promising. Keep us posted on that.
Yeah,
please.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I got a lot of other stuff to do, but for the most part, the car is almost ready. It's almost ready to go to the dyno.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. So that's exciting.
The other thing I wanted to bring up and mention is that LS Fest it's right around the corner.
It is.
Been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, kind of getting ready for it. Kind of just doing a lot of prep work for the event. One of the things is questionnaire for any drivers that are looking to attend. That's going to be posted up pretty soon. The questionnaire, so that way we start getting the information from the drivers, because we're definitely going to need that for the event itself. And
do we have a driver's list yet?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah, and so one of the things that before we would do is that when we would publish the questionnaire, then we kind of would get a sense as to what kind of drivers would be showing up and who we expect. Two people that I would expect to be there that I kind of hope we get some interviews with is Dirk Strand and Jonathan Aaron.
Yeah, okay.
Dirk Strand being the #1 qualifier last year.
Okay.
And kind of seeing how what his plan of attack is for this time around.
Maybe we'll see Tyler Berry again.
Yeah, Tyler Berry.
Cole Richards.
And then Jonathan Aaron, who was last year's winner. So
Yeah.
let's see how. I'm curious with that. I think the other thing to kind of try to take notice for the event is who do we kind of. And this is something we'll need to figure out during practice at that time, is who do we foresee being a promising or upcoming driver to watch. Okay. For instance, Cole Richards for us, like aside from his name, kind of stood out in a way based on how young he was and how aggressive he was driving and the car that he was driving. And we're like, wow, this kid stood out. And then fast forward to not too long ago this year, he won an event.
Yeah.
So there's that's something that we'll need to kind of like pay attention to and see exactly who's gonna
And
stand
who
up.
was the gentleman that crashed really bad? Remember? And he put like his car was in the pits.
The BMW, right?
The BMW. Yeah, I forget his name.
I think it was Gavin Treat. I think
you're right. It might have been.
I think so.
That was
something
pretty
like that.
bad. He screwed that car pretty bad.
Yeah. We'd have to. I gotta check up on his social media to see if he's if he got it fixed or if he's went with a different platform or something.
Right.
So there's that. Now one of the other things, judging. I wanted to mention judging and kind of. I got into this conversation with this prolific individual prolific individual in the drift scene, and the topic centered around putting forth limitations or kind of narrowing down the judging criteria at these competitions.
Okay.
So basically, I don't want to specify things. I don't want to kind of like name any names, but basically, when you're case in point, if there's a straight Sebring, I guess I'll bring that up. Or no, I'm sorry, PBIR. Right?
Okay. The
PBIR, you have a long straight
into
this very wide and long right turn, which is a turn known as turn 10.
Yeah.
And you can sort of attack it in more ways than one. You could do sort of like a manji flick where you kind of, transfer weight to the right and then to the left.
And then to the right again.
And we've seen instances before where, for instance, at Klutch Kickers, there was, can't remember, Keone Rodriguez.
Okay.
Right? Where his style, and this was like a consistent throughout all of his runs, is like going up to the straight, he would do these aggressive like flicks from left to right, and it got to a point where like I don't know exactly, but basically a lot of people got frustrated by it, I guess. Maybe
I could see why.
So my takeaway from it was that if I were a judge in one of these events, I would go ahead and institute I guess a criteria basically stating that you can't because some of them put forth a criteria where it's like you get the maximum movements you could do is 2. But then I would actually go to the extent of just saying, well, you can't do more than 2. You have to just stick with 1, and the 1 would be just the initiation.
Okay.
And the person that I was arguing with brought up a good point, a counterpoint stating that by putting extreme limits on the judging criteria, you take away the style from drifting. So then I guess I was sort of like on the fence about it. It was like, yeah, I could see my side and I could understand their side.
Oh, you were being understanding that day.
Yeah, I was trying to be, because I guess because I understand like the style of it, but then at the same time I'm coming from it from a spectator being frustrated at watching some of these things unfold. And so I just like, for me, it's like I would prefer to just be narrowed down, so that way then not only does it become sort of more narrow, but at the same time, I guess you could say more consistent, I guess. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I actually agree with you on this.
Oh, hey.
I actually agree with you on this, and I actually think that I don't think style plays in a judging criteria as much as it used to.
Okay.
But I don't think manjing an entry is a style. Honestly, I think it's almost like cheating, because it's easier to manji enter than it is to just run up and single motion enter.
Okay.
Because when you're manji entry, honestly, I think it's cop out. And where I think thought this was something that was ridiculous, and people were losing their minds when we did the Orlando kart track.
Okay.
And there was a driver, and they were like manging the whole straight, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's so sick!" I'm like, it's not. It's really not. They're manging the whole straight. Yeah. That's not sick. Like, oh my gosh, like they're losing their minds. I'm like, that is ridiculous because that's easy. Anybody could just floor it out the gate and just mangy down the straight and enter. It's not. I think it's a cop out. I think it's. I think, in my opinion, it takes more talent to just attack an initiation. Now, I'm not saying that you can't flick it, but I'm talking about, there's a difference between using inertia to initiate the drift than actually breaking traction one way and then throwing it in the other way. Mm-hmm. I think breaking traction one way and throwing it the other way, I don't think that should be allowed. I think they should have to go and they should attack one motion. Now, they can go in and use inertia to break, to throw the car sideways. But I actually agree with you. Oh, because, okay. How much, are you gaining that much? If a Manji doing a Manji entry gave you that much style points, then everybody would be doing it. True. But notice not everybody's doing it.
Right.
And a lot of the people that win, they're not doing it. So one, it slows you down. It slows down your entry speed. So I agree with you. I think in competition drifting. Now, if you're just having fun with the guys and you're doing all other stuff, then I think it's fine, because I think it's one, you're kind of making it a little more difficult for the guy behind you, right? To time your dumb little manji that you want to do. Because I don't think you should be doing a manji entry. All right. I think you should just one motion entry. So I agree with you there, because if you're doing a manji, the guy following you can't really manji with you. I guess he could, right? But he's not going to be able to enter on your door like he would. It's almost like cheating in a way, if from the lead position.
Well, I could see how the person in the chase position could manji, but that's only if they know ahead of time. Right. So, like, for instance, when you see like team tandems taking place, that's they know they know ahead of time.
So, that goes down to your spotter, right? Your spotter say, okay, this guy always manji enters. Now, it's one thing, like, okay, I'll give it if there's a certain driver that's just always how they enter, and the chase driver can kind of like, okay, I know he's going to do this, you can kind of plan for it. But honestly, I think a manji entry, I don't think they should be doing that. I think they should have to. I agree with you. I think it should be one motion entry in a competition setting.
Right.
So
yeah, and the other part where I come from it is that we've been privileged to sort of be like behind the scenes and kind of either during the driver's meeting or be right alongside the judges and kind of get it like an ear on like some of the things that are happening in the background.
Right.
And like for me, the other sort of motivation towards sort of like limiting a lot of these things is sort of hearing all of this like back and forth that goes on sometimes between the judges or the spotters or the drivers. And it's sort of like, well, if you take away or you kind of limit a lot of the things that are kind of open to interpretation, then you kind of take away a lot of the sort of debates that take place in regards to maybe protests that unfold because, well, this person entered this way and messed up this other person. You know what I mean? Like all these arguments that could arise.
Well, like style. Style is a subjective criteria. That's why I don't think style should play any part in the role of competition drifting, because what if I say my style is shallow angle? You know what I'm saying? Like, if my style is shallow angle, why should I get penalized for my style? You're not penalizing. You're penalizing people for, if you're using style as a criteria, you're penalizing them because they're not doing it the way you want them to do it. So then whose style is it? The style that you want them to do, or their own style? So style should not be a judge criteria, because at the end of the day, what's the ultimate goal? Be on the right line, have good speed, and a lot of angle. There's the most angles you possibly can, right?
And good flow throughout.
Like if they're like speeding out, right? So, but that can be said in the driver's manual. Okay, we want snappy transitions, or we want smooth transitions. So maybe a smooth transition means it's a little slower, right? That can be communicated by the judges. But if you're judging somebody based on how much angle, how fast they're going, and if they're hitting a line, so you're basically telling everybody they need to drift the same style. So how can you even judge style? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
So style, I think, is no. I disagree with that. I think that.
Well, you hit it when you said like, well, whose style is it?
Right.
Because if the driver has a certain style, but then the judge has their own style that they're like
Manji entry is just insane. That's the best style ever. You know, Manji all the way down straight and enter at 30 miles an hour. That's much better than, you know, going 70 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
No.
But then let me ask you this, and this is sort of another question that arose during that whole discussion, is that if, let's say, for instance, and I'm kind of like flipping the script a bit because it was a bit of a
Flip it like
it was a different question when I was having the discussion with them. But let's say, for instance, you're the driver, you're at the driver's meeting, I'm the judge, and I say, hey, I want a Manji entry. Like the judging criteria that I'm setting forth is minimum 2 movements. The same track. Would you adhere to it, or would you try to argue against it?
No, I would adhere to it. If that's what the judges want, then I already know everybody's going to be doing it. Okay. And that's what the judges want. So that's what they're looking for. You give the judges what they want because you want to score high, right? The judges say we're looking for snappy transitions. You know, we're looking to initiate to angle and maintain angle, like a lot of times they do. And if they say, hey, listen, we want a 2-motion entry, then you give them a 2-motion entry, whether I like it or not, or I think it's my opinion, whether it's a better way to enter or not doesn't matter, because that's what the judges want. So you give the judges what they're looking for. So I wouldn't argue with that because they're telling everybody out front. So right away, you know, everybody's going to Manji entry. Everybody's going to enter doing a Manji. So then you can plan for it.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah, because again, it got there was a lot of difference of opinions in the discussion that I had.
Well, yeah, everybody has. So there you go. That goes back to my point. That's subjective, right?
Right. Exactly.
So if you're gonna do a sport, you got to take as much of the subjectivity, I guess you could say, out of the subjectiveness, out of the judging as possible, in order to make it accurate, if that makes sense. Like, be able to consistently judge something.
Yeah.
So like for instance, in gymnastics, right? A lot of times what they do is the gymnast will let the judges know these are the moves I'm going to do. Depending on the move is worth so many points, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to do whatever move. This is a very difficult move, so it's worth so many points. So what they do is they get a bunch of little moves together and throw some big moves in there. And they try to do those. Each move is worth up to so many points in value, right? Mm-hmm. So you're telling the judge what you're going to do, and they're going to judge you based on how well you execute those moves. With drifting, it's kind of the other way around, because the judges are saying we want this line, right? And we want you to. That's why the drivers' meetings are so important. A lot of times, I think, are underutilized by drivers. I think many drivers underutilize the driver's meeting, which is probably a good thing, because then we'd probably be there for hours. But I think a lot of people don't ask questions, and then they do whatever they're going to do, and then they don't understand why they got the results they got. Every event that I've ever done, the judges are there for you to ask questions in and out of the driver's meeting. And all those things, all those questions, you need to be, as a driver, if you're really trying to build your program, if you're really trying to advance your career in drifting, you need to learn to, one, how to communicate what you're thinking, right? And be able to effectively communicate that to the judges in order to get that feedback, and then take that feedback, and don't just let it go one ear out the other, but take that feedback and be able to capitalize on that and use that in order to put forth your best effort in order to win the competition. I think with drifting, the judges, every time, for the most part, judges always lay out, this is what we want, this is what we're looking for, if you have any questions. And you know as well as I do, a lot of people don't ask questions. So
I think they focused on the meeting aspect of it. And so they were like, oh, I could just zoom into this. Like, maybe they just don't.
I don't really see the debate. Like, in my opinion, right, that I think because you're not telling them they can manji in between clipping points. Well, that's my style. I like to manji in between clips. I'm just saying, like, it's a long straight.
Right.
I'm going to manji it straight. Well, if you fault them for manjiing from clip to clip, why are you allowing them manji from start to entry?
Yeah.
Right? If you're zero them there, why are you not going to zero them if they're manji? You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion. So, but if the judge is looking for that, then the judges can communicate that. But I don't think it should be allowed. So I'm 100% on your side.
Cool.
In competition.
Right.
And,
if
you're driving on your own or whatever, then that's fine. But I think manji entry is actually like, I wouldn't say it's cheating, but it's easier. Because you kind of throw the car sideways and you kind of can stretch it a little longer, or you can come out of that manji a little sooner. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't time the entry right, it's more forgiving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that,
so if I'm going down the straight and my initiation point's here, if I manji it this way, I can kind of like hold that manji a little longer, and I can time it a lot easier than just coming straight at it and attacking it with one swift motion. That's how I feel.
Let me ask you this. Let's say if qualifying, the format of qualifying changes in a matter of what you just outlined with gymnastics. So let's say you have the driver tell the judges like, okay, well, I'm going to do this kind of run. And the judges will be like, okay, we'll see how well you execute it.
Well, and the level of difficulty. Okay, like if I enter, I'm going to enter backwards, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to be like, okay, well, the level of difficulty is worth this many points. If you execute, and this is just for qualifying, if you execute a backwards entry seamlessly, you could max out your points. And if you do a backwards reverse entry and then hit all your clips and your zones. Now I'm not talking tandem. We're talking qualifying.
Yeah, just qualifying. You think that would work?
I mean, it's an idea.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, these are certain ways to attack the course. We want you to drop one tire off every. You drop a tire off, work all the way over the other track, drop another tire, drop a tire, drop a tire. You got to totally fill out the whole course. That might be worth higher points, but you got to let the judges know, I'm going to attack the course this way. And they're going to be looking for that. Okay, he's got to drop it. He's going to enter reverse, and he's got to drop a tire off every transition. Every time he goes sideways, he has to drop one tire off. Something like that,
I could actually see that happening. Well, if you think about it, that could actually work.
Yeah. Now, you just got to be minimal, right? And then you judge how if they went way off, they drop 2 tires and 0.
Yeah,
if they didn't drop a tire, then they don't get the points because they're saying they're going to drop tires here in these spots. Or I'm going to take out, I'm going to touch each clip, right? I'm not going to knock it over. I'm going to touch each clipping point. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to ride the wall, right? I'm not going to smash into the wall. I'm going to ride the wall here. I'm going to ride the wall there. They're being okay. He says he's going to ride the wall here. He's going to ride the wall there. He gets maximum points if he rides the wall with minimum damage, right? With just kind of scraping it. He gets less points if he misses the wall. Mm-hmm. And if he crashes, he gets a 0.
It's kind of like a pool. You're calling the shots.
Calling your shots. There you go. Exactly.
So calling your shots, form of qualifying for drifting.
Shot callers.
It's shot
callers.
Oh! Oh my gosh. That's it.
It could be shot callers drift competition. That'd be a way to make single competitions fun, though.
Oh, man. That's it. You heard it here first.
Shot callers.
Now the challenge is for us to convince some drifting organization to allow this to make this a reality.
Yeah. We'll see.
Wow. Okay. All right. Shot callers. Damn. All right. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. This is great.
Kind of cool stuff.
Yeah. Before we move on, got a question in the chat, which I think it's a good topic. Brought to you by DCSA. We'll go with that. Is Klutch Kickers coming back? And I think it's a great question based on the recent news that they actually sold the track.
They did sell the track.
Emerald Close Dragway
has been sold.
Has been sold, yes.
I forget. Oh, I remember who it was sold to, but I forget who it was sold to.
It was some insurance auto broker,
Yes,
something like that. So it's got to be like a car lot, I guess. I'm
now,
guessing.
will they utilize it as a drag strip and a race course? But so that doesn't necessarily mean Klutch Kickers dies, right?
Right.
As far as the organization, last I heard, is that there has been some major changes as far as the inner workings of the staff of Klutch Kickers. But I really think all that rain, the Freedom Factory, moving to the Freedom Factory, moving from the Freedom Factory, I think did more harm than good for the Klutch Kickers as a organization. And two, the fact that we had a lot of rain almost every other event didn't help the season. And I mean, that's a great question. That's still a question that we can't answer. I know we've heard rumors that there are possibility plans of it coming back, and then I've heard other rumors saying that it's just not going to happen. But when we do hear something that we're allowed to communicate, you will hear it here first.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
My takeaway from it is that it's not going to come back. It's obviously not going to come back the same way how it was. Obviously, one of the core aspects of the series was the Emerald Coast Dragway track. And with that now, unfortunately, out of the picture, in what shape or form the series or the organization is going to come back to, I have no idea, but I don't expect it to be the same as it was before. What are their plans, what they're going to do, we have no idea. So it's just a matter of like waiting and seeing what's going to transpire, pretty much.
Yeah, we are still in contacts with a lot of people from Klutch Kickers. So I'm sure if we get some information, we'll be able to share it. But one thing I got to point out is that what made Klutch Kickers what it was, and what I believe was the timing of it, right? It came out during COVID when everything was shut down. All motorsports events were shut down. Formula Drift, right? All that stuff was shut down and people weren't going to events. Klutch Kickers, when they started promoting, and what are you looking at?
This is a little feather thing. Sorry.
Get that away. Anyhow, Klutch Kickers,
Sorry.
The timing of Klutch Kickers, I think was crucial. I think if Klutch Kickers hadn't been around and it came out right now, I don't think it would have had as big of an impact, because now what Klutch Kickers did is now you have other events that are doing these big payouts. Klutch Kickers was, not only did it come out right when COVID was going down under all these lockdowns, it was like one of the first events that was giving away a lot of money. And I think the first season, like, you didn't need to have, like, it was pretty like run what you brung.
Yeah.
Right. It was very laxed as far as you didn't need to have a pro car, right? And anybody could drive. You didn't need a license, and you can compete for more money than the pro guys are, right?
I don't even think a cage was required. If
I don't think it was at first. I know Freedom Factory was.
Yeah.
But I think at first it wasn't. So it was like, I can go and I can compete for $10,000 and just bring my car and go run. And we're talking a track that wasn't like 100-mile-an-hour entry, right? So it was very newer driver friendly, right? Very rookie friendly as far as the driver's concerned. Mm-hmm. So you can go out there, and then these big name drivers started coming out, and that just started bringing more grassroots drivers out there, because like, dude, I want to go drive with Taylor Hole or Taylor Ray or Adam LZ, right? I can go out there and I can be in the pits and I can learn from these guys, or Alec Honadale. All these guys going out there brought more hype to the series. But I don't think had Klutch Kickers come, I think, and this is just, we don't know, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
But had Klutch Kickers come out like next year, I don't think it would have the impact it did.
I to some extent, I would have to kind of disagree with that.
That's fine.
I just think that because you could kind of see how well of an old machine it was. how everything kind of flowed very good together. The drive and the determination and the passion from all of the different aspects of it, from the live stream, from the crew to the personnel, to trying to make sure that if there was a fire, obviously we had a couple of fires, take place, and they really try to quickly get the track back together just to keep the show going. I just think that it would have still made it. I think it would have still, if it were to come out next year, it will make an impact, because I'm watching some of these other events take place, and I'm just like, well, this is good, but it's missing these other things here and there that make, like, I'm still mentally like comparing it to Klutch Kickers, and
So
and that's
Klutch
sort
Kickers
of
is your
like
standard.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of like the standard that. So if these other guys are kind of like missing some of these things, I just think that it wasn't only just the timing that Klutch Kickers that it helped them out. I just think also it's just them hitting the marks with all these other different things is why I feel that if they were to come out next year, if let's say this year Klutch Kickers was actually incorporated for the first time,
Right.
and they were actually going to announce and say like, oh, we're introducing the 100K Drift Series in 2024. And if they were go into it based on the way how they hit all the marks from the previous seasons, I think that they will for sure make it still make an impact.
See, I don't know. And I think part of where I base my opinion on this is due to the fact of the lack of numbers at the Freedom Factory for Klutch Kickers.
Okay.
Right? So
I can see
the
that.
Klutch Kickers as an organization, it was the same organization, but they didn't get near the turnout they did the two previous seasons.
Right.
And the first season, remember, we didn't really start going into the live stream and announcing for them till halfway through the first season. They didn't really have much of a live stream before that, remember?
Yeah.
So they had some, but yes, because me and you have ran events and we've had to go through the whole process of promoting, organizing, and executing an event, we could see it in a way that we could appreciate the level of professionalism that they were able to execute those events. So going there, you're like, these people got their stuff together. And you don't typically see that from a new event. That's usually something you see over a couple years of running events. You see how people have learned and made mistakes and been able to evolve to make their events better year after year. Klutch Kickers kind of just seem like they hit the ground running, right? They just boom, and they had it down pack, and they were just like a well-oiled machine almost right out of the gate, with not too many years of experience, at least from what I understand. Now, part of that has to go with finding the right people and implementing the organization implementing and utilizing people for different areas for their expertise and their experience, so that way they can say, okay, Zach, you're going to handle this, right? Or Matt, you're going to handle this, and not try to run everything yourself, right? You kind of like, I don't want to say subcontract out, but you divide and conquer. You delegate. You don't micromanage. You delegate, and then you just put out the fires along the way. But they had that already figured out. So that, as far as on our end, when we go there and we see how well oiled and machined they were, it was impressive to us. So I think that's why it impressed us so much. But back to the original thing, as far as, do I think Klutch Kickers would have had the same impact? And the reason why I say that is because they lost a lot of the feel, the Klutch Kickers feel, when they went to Freedom Factory. In my opinion, I think it was a better venue, right? You had bleachers. It was crowd friendly to watch. For us, it was closer, right? You had a better facility. You had better production, right? On the live stream side, we had a lot more tools to utilize to be able to make the production better, not just for the production crew, for us announcing, but also for the judges. You know what I'm saying? It was a more comfortable facility, but it didn't have the feel as Emerald Coast Dragway.
Yeah, you're definitely right on all of those things. And when you brought up the whole turnout, that's something that's a major component that I definitely missed out on.
Klutch Kickers was built on a live stream.
Yeah,
because even at Emerald Coast Dragway, they didn't have thousands and thousands of people showing up. Klutch Kickers was a live stream I mean, it proves how much you can do with a live stream, really, because Klutch Kickers, as world famous as it wasn't world famous because of the people that were going there and watching it live. It was famous because people were able to watch it live. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like watch it on the live stream.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then when you take into account where you see some of these other events, the turnout that they bring in, thousands and thousands of people that they bring in, and then it's kind of like the opposite where
You don't even know what's going on.
Well, no, the drifting isn't high level, right?
Yes.
But somehow the turnout is crazy, like the just astronomical.
Yeah.
But then you sort of saw the opposite, like you just mentioned with Klutch Kickers, where the competition and the driving was just top notch, high level. Pro, I mean, pros versus Joes, all of it. It had it all, but it just didn't have. It just wasn't enough to, I guess, to bring in, have people come out to Holt where it was, and I guess maybe it was because of the location, how far
They had more drivers coming to Holt than they did to Freedom Factory.
Oh, I agree. Yes.
Right now, I think people really just loved that. So that was kind of like the caveat with Emerald Coast Dragway. People were complaining about the same layout every time. It's the same layout every time. You go to Freedom Factory and they're changing the layout, but everybody's complaining about the layouts, right? So it's like, the Emerald Coast was the same layout, but it was a sick layout, right? And they would tweak it. And the fact that it was the same layout and that it was almost the exact same clipping points, and then judges, they always try to tweak it a little bit to make it more challenging, that I think that made the drivers drive more aggressively. The drivers got more comfortable, and it showed in the tandems, so that these tight tandems got really exciting. And if there was accidents, it really wasn't at a high speed, so it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't, except for Matt Shulman caught on fire, but that wasn't because of an accident. But other than that, it was really tight tandem, a lot of smoke, a lot of high revving engines. It was very exciting, right? And I think that's why Emerald Coast Dragway did so well. Plus, they did an impeccable job at maintaining that track.
Oh, for sure.
Focusing on keeping the track consistent for all the drivers. But, it just, you see the difference between season 2 and season 3 of Klutch Kickers. And the only thing that changed was the venue. So I really think Klutch Kickers is at home at Emerald Coast Dragway, but I don't know. If they're going to come back as strong as they were before, I think it's going to be at Emerald Coast Dragway or somewhere similar that can provide a venue that can provide that level of excitement and ability for the drivers to really showcase their tandem abilities and just kind of go all crazy. So I don't know. We'll see.
We got a couple of comments in the chat by Web Travis, who writes, Klutch Kickers was a lightning in a bottle. Right time, right place, right team.
I agree.
If it comes back, it won't be even remotely the same. And then he also wrote, cage was not required for certain models of cars with better crash protection. Not going to name the models. I'm a little behind on the live stream. Oh, okay, cool. Welcome aboard. But yeah, there's that. Kind of centered around the same subject. There was a post, if I recall correctly, on Lone Star Derp where they highlighted a message talking about somebody asking, oh, how is it that these drivers can afford to drift? And I think
Drivers, as far as like pro drivers, pro-am drivers, or just any driver? Was it focused on
I don't think they specify, but let's just say like, well, because you kind of understand like pro drivers obviously need to have some sort of like significant income and just to be able to afford all of that. But let's say, for instance, somebody that has pro amateur, I guess you can say, somebody that has an LS high build power, highly modified vehicle that's not necessarily shooting to go pro per se.
Let's specify highly modified LS because a base LS isn't giving you much. Like 350.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll go with that. But I think it sort of brought on the idea, and it was a very good discussion where you had people saying like, well, some people are just living with their parents, still living with their parents, and that's how they're still able to afford how to drift. Or some people are just really scraping by just to be able to get to these events. And then some people too, they're really trying to budget and be smart with their finances just to be able to afford the expenses to try to get their car out to the event. So I think sort of what it came down to for me as I was thinking about it is that, well, I think a major aspect, a component of it is that you don't want to build a car beyond your means. I mean, you've heard of the term like don't live beyond your means, but for me, it's sort of like what I kept thinking about is like don't build a car beyond your means, meaning that because you see some people that go out of their way to build these like crazy sick builds that have 500, 600 horsepower with wise fab angle kit,
right?
Crazy coilover setup, 295 with tires in the rear. Obviously, just a very expensive build. And then, of course, that's one major aspect of it. But then the other aspect of it that's not really, I guess, taken into account or maybe considered is the maintenance of it and actually running of it from event to event.
Can I chime
Sure,
in on
go ahead.
kind of because I got two things that I don't want to forget them.
Okay, go ahead.
I want you. So the first thing is when it comes to overbuilding a car, right? Sometimes you like you said, people they'll get like a few months of experience and then they build this ridiculous ride. Now, one thing you got to understand, it when it comes to funding your passion, whether it be drifting or anything else, it's going to come down to each individual. How bad do you want it? The reason why I say that is because I know personally individuals that have taken loans out to build their vehicle. And when you think about it, you're like, okay, this person wants to get this fully modified engine, right? Maybe they already have 2 years of experience, right? Maybe this person they started the base car, they got the bugs worked out, they got their feet wet as far as drifting and learning how to drift. And now they're just going to go and build a sick car. When we're talking, it was like, well, I could put the parts on a credit card here, parts on a credit card there, and then get that done, pay off those credit cards, and parts on another credit card, parts on another credit card. But if you know, credit cards are usually like 25 or 18 to 25% interest.
Yeah.
Right? So you're losing money by doing that. I actually think this was a very wise decision. This person wants to pursue career and was like, you know what? I'm just going to let me see what I need to get my car where I want to go and be able to drive so many events after the car's completed. I'll take out a loan based on that at like maybe 5%.
Okay.
And get everything done right away instead of getting some parts, paying off the credit card, getting some parts, paying off the credit card, and extending this build over a year, for those people that don't have the money, right? But that person was basically like, how bad do I want it? They want to do it. They know they can't fund it with what they do on a 9 to 5, like as quickly as they want to. So they said, okay, what's the best financial way for me to do this? They got out a loan. And I think that was a great idea. Other people will just get extra jobs. And I bring this up like Farouk. I know a long time ago I was watching when he was on Hyperdrive. They did background on him, and he was working like 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, that's all he was doing, was working to pay for his tires, for everything, and then developing his program and doing all these different things. He was working his butt off to make the money to be able to fund his build. So it comes down to how bad do you want it? Okay, so that's the first thing I'm talking about. Is as far as these drivers, how bad do they want it, and what type of resources do they have is going to determine what extent they have to go to in order to achieve that goal. So that's one thing. The second thing I wanted like that came to mind when you were talking is the development of the sim rigs over the last 3 or 4 years or 5 years. However, like it's really kind of from compared to like when we were drifting back in County Line way back in the day. The only seat time you had was actual seat time.
Yeah.
Now you have drivers that are coming in much younger than ever that I can remember at a higher level at such a and progressing so quickly. And I think the sim rig has had a lot to do with that, because I think a lot of these drivers have been able to get the muscle memory down utilizing the sim rigs and developing basic skills, going out, and we've seen it many times, right? I think there wasn't a driver that borrowed Peter Visik's car that never drifted before and only has drifted on a sim rig, and he went out there and he was like killing it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, considering that he was his first event, he was killing it. So that shows you right there, technology has been able to boost people's skill level, and instead of having to spend years and years and years just doing like 5 or 6 competitions a year and building up that experience slowly, and your first event spinning out all the time, maybe getting 5 runs. Remember some of the events we used to do, you get 5 or 6 runs for the whole day, right? I think one event I got like 7 runs, and that was a whole day, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the drift scene has changed, and with the development of the sim rig, and that also comes with the increasing popularity of drifting as well. So I think drifting now has evolved to the point where somebody, if they have the funds or if they want it bad enough, can get their feet wet with a sim rig for a pretty affordable price, go to a handful of drift events, and if they have the funds already, whether it be mommy or daddy, or whether it be whatever it is, right? Whether they take out a loan, they can build that vehicle and they can be competitive much quicker than they used to be 10, 15 years ago.
So are you trying to argue or say that because if somebody comes into it with, let's say, 5 years of sim drifting experience,
well,
so
it
then,
doesn't even take that long. It could be 6 months of sim drift.
I'm just throwing it out there because, I mean, for all we know, they are 13 years old. Right. They start sim drifting, and they can't get their license until like they're 18 or whatever. This is just a scenario. So if they have 5 years of sim drifting experience, they're going into it. So then it's possible you could probably make the argument that they don't necessarily need to have a crazy build just to try to, because they could probably try to compensate for it with the skill that they already have built up.
So I'm thinking the other way around. I'm thinking they can just go straight to a crazy build. Why waste your time with I teach very often, get yourself a low horsepower car, right, and learn the basics with little, and then when you go to a more horsepower, a better built vehicle or a really good build, it's going to make you a better driver. But I'm not seeing that. What I'm saying is people come off the sim rig and get into sick like builds and kill it. So like, yes, do I think that's a proper way to learn? I do agree. I do think that is a proper way to learn. But if you look at the results of that, I think more often than not, you see people that have got their feet wet on a sim rig, not buying a 110 horsepower 240 KA and doing events, going from the sim rig and maybe to a 350Z for maybe like a year or 6 months or whatever it is, and then dropping an LS in it with like 500-600 horsepower and throwing all the angle kits on there. Now angle kit is like standard practice. It used to be just drop it and weld the diff and go. Now it's like, well, drop it, weld the diff, get suspension and an angle kit, and then go, right? So basically, back to my point of what you were saying is that I think the sim rig, if it's utilized, and at least from what I've seen, these young drivers, I see more young drivers now than ever.
All right.
I mean, at a higher level, right? So we see like people like Connor O'Sully, or Billy Mitchell, or Jaden Martirana, like all these younger drivers, they just come out like out of nowhere and they're just like pros. I think the sim rig has a lot to do with that. Maybe they're not driving on sim rigs, but I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, but then let me give you this conundrum.
Ooh.
Let's say you're a driver that has the 5 years of sim drifting skill. You can rip it. It's let's just say that's established that you can handle a 1,000 horsepower car
on a sim or
no IRL in real life.
Okay.
Like if somebody were to give you like Peter Visik's car.
Okay.
And you could just rip it. So then, but you don't have the means, the financial means, to be able to acquire or have your own 1,000 horsepower build. So then what do? Do you then make well, some people may say the financial mistake of trying to create your own 1,000 horsepower build? Or do you go where or do you build up to it? Say like you instead build like a 300 horsepower car,
So
and then you build up to get something.
So I'm at the level where I can kill it in Peter's car,
right.
but I don't have the funds. So do I just start out with the 300 horsepower car? It depends.
Because that's what you can afford.
But what I'm saying, then it goes back to how bad do you want it? What is your goal? Okay, so if my goal is to just go, do hood rat crap with my friends, right? If that's my goal, then I just get the $5,000 350Z, and I throw some coilovers on an angle kit, and I missile it. You know what I'm saying? And I just go at it and have fun. If my goal is to be pro, then I know I have the skill level to be able to handle that vehicle. Why would I not go for that? It almost doesn't make sense. It almost like why would I slow my path down if I had the skill and the ability to be competitive with a pro car? Why not just get the pro car and go be competitive? We saw that with Connor O'Sully, right?
Right.
He was right out the bat, like competitive on his first event. He was qualifying. You know what I'm saying? He was battling.
Well, because you don't have the financial means to be able to build the car. So whatever.
Let's ask Paul. Paul, what do you think? Okay. Take the camera off, Paul. Okay.
No, but it's just having, like, for instance, the financial means of the know-how in order to be able to get that build. It's sort of like you see instances where you know, I'm sure you've come across this, where there's drivers that are talented. Mm-hmm. They're talented at driving,
yes,
but they're not talented at other things. Like, for instance, financially, they're not talented.
Building a program,
or building a program, or
communicating,
knowing how to
communicating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or knowing what a APR is, knowing or having a good credit score in order to acquire a good loan with a good rate to be able to. You're just at it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of some people I know. Yeah. But yes, absolutely right. So there is obviously more involved in it, finding a good team, right? But a lot of times, these drivers that have that skill and have the ability to build that pro car and be competitive, I think a lot of their decision to establish the goal of going pro and being that competitive at that level has to do with, okay, I have the people around me. I can, my dad likes racing. I know he'll be like my crew chief, and I got a lot of good friends that just want to support me, and we're gonna go ahead and go on this venture. I don't think many people go into it like, I don't know anybody, I have nothing, I have nobody else, and I'm gonna build a pro car all by myself. It doesn't typically work out like that. Usually there is a what do they call it? It's not foundation, but there's support. Right? Mm-hmm. There's some type of support, whether it be family or friends, or maybe it's another driver, right? Like Adam LZ, he got a lot of support from a lot of other drivers, like Von Gittin, right? Took under his wing and stuff, as far as that's concerned. So it may be another driver that takes a new driver under their wing, right? So I'm just saying, I think the old way of buying a beater and doing events and getting seat time, although I still feel that's the best way, I'm just saying that the facts and the evidence is kind of pointing the other way. That you can, if you want to get into drifting, get your feet wet on a sim rig, then maybe buy something that you can go out and do a couple events on, and then if you have the means and if you have the willpower and the fortitude and the support to do so, build a pro vehicle and try to go pro or pro-am. There's so many events now that you can compete at for money. You have to travel. That it's a growing sport. It's evolving, definitely evolving.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if did Webb send you? He sent me information on the Emerald Coast Dragway. So it was Emerald Coast Dragway was sold on July 14th, 2023. The transaction shows that Insurance Auto Auctions Corp purchased the property, and rumor it was sold for $4.7 million.
Wow.
Now I don't know what their plans are. It could just be a lot. I don't think it really talks too much about what their plans are for that facility, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be doing events there. But you never know. So,
Well, not the kind of events that we would attend.
most likely not.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're looking to purchase some sort of
Who knows?
a beater or something. Who knows?
Who knows?
One final thing, and obviously some people that were tuned in, they saw kind of like a quick preview of it. Tim, you brought this up, and what is this about? Blimey, we've completely forgotten about the hydrogen-powered V12 BMW H2R.
Okay, so
What's this about, Tim?
So we talk about every once in a while, every once in a while we talk about the whole future of autos and performance and engines and the whole global warming and green thing that we talk about every once in a while. And a lot of times we discussed our personal experiences with the electric vehicle. Plus, you shared with me an ad where Tesla was actually. But the auto industry does that already, right? They brag about the mileage, right? Like, okay, yeah, this car gets 30 miles per gallon with the wind downhill, right? And letting off the throttle. In reality, you don't ever see that. So now Tesla owners are feeling that, right? Because they're like, but I think the difference here is that one thing I'll tell you, when I'm in my truck and it tells me I have 200 miles range, it's almost dead on.
Oh, okay.
Almost every time. Like, and I've tested it a couple times where I'm like, I got 40 miles left before, it just says, see ya. See ya. and almost down to the mile, like I'll be able to get to the station, get gas. But anyhow, Tesla released that information, or they're suing Tesla because their projected mileage in the vehicle is almost double what it actually is. So like, I got 192 miles, but in reality, they're only getting 87 or something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that being said, electric vehicles suck. Hybrid is the way to go. If you're going to do it, do a hybrid because you have the best of both worlds. Right?
Yeah.
You drive a Prius. And this is now probably not feasible yet, but it maybe is a way of the future. So I don't know if they can see it now.
Yeah, they can see it.
Oh, okay. So maybe scroll up a little bit because it's kind of half the car. Now this is apparently something that's been in production for a while, or has been out there for a while, and they've been working on it. But now, I don't know if there's a video. If they show you a video, the one I should have sent you is the way this thing sounds. Now this is a hydrogen powered vehicle.
From here, it looks like a Z4.
Pretty much. It's pretty much a repurposed vehicle. And they say, it doesn't weigh that much, but it actually does. It weighs it's like 3,400 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah, for that little thing. Now it is a
Pretty hefty. Wow, look at that rear.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest thing.
Oh, boy.
But it is a hydrogen powered race car. Now now it doesn't make much horsepower, and it's a V12. So they got some work to do there. It's a 6.0 V12. And they said, I think it was the same engine that was in the
760i.
Yes. But the thing sounds insane. I don't know if did they have a video on here?
Oh, no, they don't.
Oh man, I probably should have sent one to you.
No worries. It's okay.
But anyhow,
what noises? I don't know.
Right. Point being, people are working on other things now. Hydrogen. I think the thing with this is that it's obviously storing the hydrogen in vehicle, and then you'd have to go to hydrogen fill stations. I still think there's other ways to utilize hydrogen. Paul would probably be better one to he would have been better to have chime in on this.
Well, he's right here. What are you talking
hold on
about?
a second. Wait, take the camera off of me real quick. Take it on you.
Oh yeah, hang on. We're gonna set that up. But Paul has to come into frame. Okay, now Paul's here. Oh, okay.
Paul. So what do you think?
Gerber.
Okay, that's Paul's.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Paul, for your insight.
Yeah. But hey, it's at least people are pursuing an avenue, right? Mm-hmm. Because I just don't think electricity is not, if you're really trying to save the environment, electric vehicles is not the way to go.
Fully electric
Is not the way to go. Mm-hmm. You got all the kids mining slaves and stuff.
Yes.
Built on that. So it's a new blood diamond.
We don't need to go into details, please.
But anyhow, Don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think there's other methods out there. I think there have been other methods of engines out there that have been bought out by big oil and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I thought this was pretty interesting. But this thing, if you get a chance, go ahead. It's a BMW H2R concept, and this thing sounds like a beast.
Be sure to check that out. One last question before we wrap up, and it's in regards to this. And this is something that I've been asking myself for kind of years now at this point, is that when is, well, actually, I'll take it back because it's already happened, but it needs to be reintroduced.
Okay.
And the question is when is competitive, it's like, when are we going to see in competitive form of drifting, when are we going to see electrification? And of course, you saw it with the Camaro, but that was sort of, it just felt like a one-off, like a testing ground that was sort of not meant to be a permanent thing. Yeah. And it really floundered when we saw it out at the Formula Drift. But what I definitely could foresee happening is that with some of these cars that are on the road today, they utilize like an electric motor to enhance the power output of the vehicle. So now, obviously, we're seeing, I guess, to the point where like it's reliably achieving 1,000 horsepower on some of these drift cars. But then, what if they could just add another 500 or 200 with an electric motor onto it? So then,
kind of similar to Paul's truck, right? His Dodge adds torque because it has electric motor.
Yeah. So then, I think the question is when are we going to start seeing that form of electrification into these pro vehicles?
Right. So instead of adding a supercharger or turbocharger, right, you add an electric motor or some form of electrification in order to boost that level of performance. That's interesting. Yeah. And at least it'll make some sound. I actually got a sound clip of this. Can I play it?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay. So this
Just
is that
put it
BMW.
up to the mic.
Yeah, I will. This is the BMW. Okay.
I think it would help if you. Well, now you got somebody talking.
Yeah. It's going to go in a second here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this thing it just sounds amazing. And I'm sorry, it's just kind of awkward. I should have prepared this. But
Hello. Yeah.
not bad, right?
Yeah, definitely not bad. Now I'm going to have to check it out afterwards.
Yeah. But it doesn't have much horsepower. But anyways, we are going to see, because, of course, all motorsports are going to have to sooner or later conform to whatever the standard is, right?
Yeah, you're seeing it in Formula One already. They have electrification, and eventually they're actually going to get, how can I say this, fuel, like some type of synthetic fuel, where it's more eco-friendly, I guess you can say. So I think it's just a simple matter of, like, if you're seeing it in these crazy leagues, when is it going to trickle down to all these other forms of motorsport? And particularly with our case, Formula Drift, Drift Masters, D1, when are you going to start seeing some of those things take place? Who knows? Maybe, next 5 years, maybe, you think?
Who knows? Who knows?
We'll see. Well, on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This was the episode before the nicest episode we're gonna have. I'm ecstatic. I'm stoked for a wonderfully nice episode that's got to be coming up in the wings soon enough. We have a guest lined up. Well, we got to work out the details, but can't wait. I'm excited.
Are we going on? So are we having a guest, or are we going on a field trip?
I still have to confirm, but I would figure we're going to be on a field trip.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be nice throughout.
All right. Sounds good.
Yes, indeed. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to catch you next time. Take care and good night.